Honey, how's it going? What's going on? I have known Reverend Mary and her beautiful husband, Tom, for many, many, many years, since I started UCM and became a minister. And I so appreciate the love, the honesty, and the ability to be there for you no matter what's going on. And sometimes when somebody's honest, you're not too sure that's what you wanted. So if you want an honest answer, would you please ask our next speaker, because she knows what's best for you. Please welcome Reverend Mary Garry.
You're looking especially wonderful today. Well, folks, I don't know how to do it. I'll just do it. So I was worried about this talk over the weekend.
You're going to need a mic so we can record you. Well, no, you stay there. Eileen will bring the mic to you.
Okay. Because I have to move a little, because nothing can come through me if I don't move a little, and boy, do I need stuff to come through me. Nothing disgusting, I hope. Okay, so here I am. I'm worrying all weekend, you know. I'm running the conference as best I can, but, you know, I have thousands of people to help me there, but it's a little quiet up here, you know, so I'm all by myself. So I was trying to listen to the tone of the conference and get a feel for, you know, what would be a good follow-on for the conference. And then I heard some stuff about the shadow. And so I thought, well, maybe I'm supposed to talk about the shadow. And, you know, we just moved, many of you know, because I lament it regularly. And so during the great unpack into the 7 bookcases of the house, I know went a book called The Little Book of the Shadow. Many of you have probably read it. It's a wonderful little book. So they got me up. It's punishment that the universe gives me for not preparing ahead of time. So I was up at 5:30. And I'm saying, okay, direct me to this little book. So I went all through the 7 bookcases, and I couldn't find that little book anywhere. So then the little book I did find was Garry Fromm's book called The Art of Loving. And so I sat with that for a few minutes, and I said, well, you know, do you want me to speak about love rather than the shadow? It's a rather overworked speaking, but, you know, this is what I'm being told, this is what I'll try to do. So I sat with it for a few minutes, and the information I got was the sun rises. And as the sun rises, it creates light. And the greater the light of the sun, the darker the shadow as it encounters an object. That, Missy, they call me Missy when I'm in trouble, that, Missy, is the way it is. There is always going to be shadow. It doesn't mean that something awful, or that somebody's awful, or that something terrible has happened. It means when there is great light, there is great shadow, for it is the work of the universe to keep you in balance. So Missy had her own thoughts with them about what balance had to be and why one had to work so hard at keeping it, but they were impressed. So they sent me to the computer, and here I am. Now it's 6:15, and I'm madly typing. Not a bad talk. It really kind of brought me some interesting highlights. And it's not in my purse. I got here, and I was feeling pretty good. I was going to have Tom help me with the talk because he heard me through it, you know, kind of talking about, this is what I got, and is this a logical flow to you, or do you think I got in my own way, or, you know, what do you think happened here? And he's very kind. We've been married for 40-some years, so he rarely tells me what he thinks has happened here, because usually I've had something to do with it. But he was very supportive and very understanding, and I felt really good about the talk, but it's not in my purse. So, you know, yeah. You know what has to happen, and that is y'all have to hook me up. And so the best way I hook up is with a little music. I'll take that too. And yesterday I had the opportunity, which I haven't had before, to sit next to one of the members of our church by the name of Kevin. I don't know if a lot of you know Kevin. I see you back there now. I hope I get this right. But Kevin and I were chatting and kind of sounding each other out, getting to know each other like you do at a meeting like that. And he was giving me some fine words, most of which, because of my aging mind, I don't all remember, but I do remember this part of it because I was so struck by it. And he said, what I feel sad about sometimes is that people forget how much they love themselves and they don't take care of that piece of business. That's right. That's right. You don't take care of that piece of business that supports the part of you who does and should love oneself. There is no reason, oh, are they coming? There is no reason not to love yourself. We make the best decisions we can in the moment. We do the best with the challenges and burdens we've been given in the moment. We are blessed to be in a community which understands that and supports that. In this room, in this entire room, there is no one harder on you than you. Sink that in. There is no one in this entire room harder on you than you. We face separating challenges. There are many people in this room who have worked with grief. The queen of working with grief roared out of here to go and work with grief again. We know about grief. You're not spared from grief. God knows if everyone in this room raised their hand who had experienced painful grief, painful loss. But what you must remember about loss is that loss is the shadow of the bright sun. We will always have loss. And the greater the strength of the sun, the greater the love in our heart, the greater the feelings that we have, the greater the shadow. But that must never, ever stop us from loving. It must never, ever stop us from connecting to our work. It must never, ever be the reason we fear to live. Because we have been given the gift of sustained, endless life. We are so blessed. We are so blessed to have at least a glimmer in our heart that this is not all there is. There is somewhere out there. It's a song. I can't remember it. You're very grateful. Beneath. I love the choir. They make my heart open and whatever strategy you have to make your heart open, that's how you get connected to the good stuff. You know, that's what happened to me right here. I always try and beg for a spot that the choir is going to sing before I come on, because I'm so much better if they sing first. And part of what came to me is kind of coming back now. What came to me was that living really is an art. It's not just an art of loving, it's an art of living. So let's just think about art a little bit. There's all kinds of art. There's paintings, which my husband and I do. There's music, which so many of you do. There's art of a child's creation. There's art of a project. Somebody puts together a little project, and it's their art. And really what it is their creativity made manifest. Whatever it is. You know, and people look at art when it's done, and they say, oh, isn't that beautiful? I could never do that. I could never do that. How many times have people said, how many times have you said, you know, even if you do art, the other person's art is the art you could never do. Yeah, I could never do that. And why couldn't you ever do that? Because we don't want to do the work that's tied to doing that art. We think some people are born with talent. Well, that's true. That's true. Some people are born with talent, and for them to learn to do art is easier than for somebody who's not born with talent to learn to do art. But that doesn't mean that somebody who's not born with talent can't do the things that are necessary to learn to do art. It might not be the same. They might not be hanging it in the Queen's Palace. But by golly, it's your creativity. And I think one of the most creative, wonderful things we can do is to put art into our relationships. Mm-hmm.
Which art is that? Part of your three fiancés called art. Do I have to go?
Now, Dottie, if you think in my altered state I can begin to compete with your one-liners. You and Corky will have to work that out privately. The art of a relationship. The art of a relationship requires as much attention, analysis, patience, and commitment as any other art. And for those of you who have worked with people who are in grief or passing, how many of them say at the end of their life, as they see the light opening on the other side, I wish I'd made another $20. Generally not. Generally what they say is, I wish I'd had time to clean up that XYZ relationship. I wish I hadn't been so annoyed. My brother, who I lost recently, who was very close to me and as different from me as the sun and the moon. But we loved each other very much. But he was federal investigator.
He's coming in.
He was very organized. He was by the book. He said, give me the rules, I'll make it happen. I said, give me the rules, I know where to throw the book into the fire. You know? We were very, very different. And we loved each other very, very much. And my sense of what he sent back to me when he was when he was on the other side, and he sent back a message to me. Am I doing something wrong? Come back, brother.
He's saying hi, I guess.
What he said to me, or what I think he said to me, or what somebody said to me is, perhaps I was a little harsh, but I loved you. And I think that's how it'll be for us when we cross over. We'll see our vulnerabilities. We'll have walked this path. And by the way, for those of you who were there Friday night and you have a stone on the path, please take it with you. Yes, those stones are yours. The one you picked on Friday and brought over here for this altar to transfer the energy. That was a good thing, I think. And it's okay. It's okay. So what we want to do is to take the art of living and make it part of our relationship guideline. That, if you read Fromm, he talks about how the walls fall down, and for most people that's happened maybe once in their life, or if it happens too many times in your life, you have to think you have weak walls, but other than that, this wonderful joining of partners that happens when two people who are meant to share long life together come together. There's that wonderful period that you couldn't possibly live in the long run. It would be too exhausting, and you wouldn't get anything else done. And but it's innate in us to have the walls fall down now and then, and to really join with another human being. And it's that joining that temporarily fills us from the separation that's inherent to our being because of our separation from God. Is my own. I always give you my 2 cents, and I always say to you at some point in the talk, take it or leave it. It's my 2 cents. I'm love to share it with you. Some people it resonates with. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. You just take what works for you and let the rest go. But what I do believe is that there's a scary place inside of us that relates to the fact that we're somehow have a knowing that we're separate from something greater and more wonderful than we can imagine. And I think that's our separation from God. However, God or source or goddess or I don't care what you call it. I just care that you feel it and acknowledge it and understand that it will be taken care of. That one of the inevitable things that will happen in this life is that we'll return to that source. What's the old George Byrne adage? Nobody gets out alive, Sooner or later, we're going to do that. So what I try to do, what works for me, is I try to acknowledge it. You get those wake-up calls in the middle of the night. Don't you hate that? It's 3 a.m. There's nobody up but you and God, or I don't know, whoever. And then you think, well, now what's this all about? Am I supposed to be learning something? Am I supposed to be doing something? Why am I nervous? I shouldn't be nervous. You can only wake your partner up so many times and not put a strain on the relationship. So you just have to deal with the fact that, you're here with this energy and this anxiety and this whatever all by yourself. So one of the things I've learned to do is to say, well, here I am all by myself. It's you and me, whoever you are. I trust that you're good, and I acknowledge that's why I'm nervous, and because I don't know how I'm going to get back to you, but let's just both go to sleep, and in the morning it'll be better. You just have to, if I have learned anything in the amount of loss I've had in my life, it's don't run. Don't run. They can always run faster. Whatever the boogeyman of the moment is, they got faster feet than you. So just stand and acknowledge them. And acknowledge something higher, and that dissipates. It dissipates. It doesn't always go all the way away. And if you think too hard about how awful it was, it gets re-empowered and can come back. But I would say to you, in the still of the night, call its name, look it in the eye, and wait for it to go away. Go back to sleep. I don't know when this talk ends. I never knew when it began. I think that would terrify people. I can give it a couple more. I'm never positive, but I'm not. I have to take one of those classes. I may be signing up for Richard's, where you get in touch with when are you really just making it up with you. Please God, that's always my prayer. Please God, if I get up there, let me tell the truth, and you tell me what the truth is. So that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to share. And I believe that walking the path together is being willing to share. I have never been the kind of person that could hide my warts very well. And so when I walk the path with you, you know what you got. You know how I feel. You know what I think. You know that basically I love you, and that doesn't mean I won't get annoyed about something. And then we just walk the path. And we'll get to the end of the path. Some people will get there first and some people will get there later. But it'll all be all right, because whether it's my path or your path or a wide path or a narrow path, or whether there's branches that you may take off and go another way, that's all fine. The goal is to walk the path, to know that there's an end to the path that's better than the path, and to be willing to look to your right and your left, to have an experience of connection that makes the path better. This is one more little story, and then I'm going to sit down. And you may have heard this story, those of you who've heard me more than once, but I was walking the path to the voting booth in North Carolina at the first election of Barack Obama. And I had been working for Barack Obama and making calls and being threatened and people asking me to put my husband on the phone, couldn't he manage me? I said, I'll put my husband on the phone for a good laugh, you know. But the day of election came, and we wanted to vote on election day. And so in North Carolina, you can vote for 2 weeks, but we wanted to vote on election day. So we got out of our car, parked our car, we're walking to the booth, and I looked over next to me, and there was an older black man. He had gray hair, and he had work clothes on, very clean. He was walking very tall. And I presumed, while looking straight ahead, because he hadn't offered me any connection with him, I looked straight ahead and said, "This is a wonderful day, isn't it? We've worked very hard for this opportunity." And he looked straight ahead, he never looked at me, and said, "Never in my whole life did I think I would be able to walk to the polls and vote for a black man." I still get chills when I think of the 2 seconds I touched that man's heart. He opened his heart and told me so much in 2 seconds. So I would say to you, walk that path. Know there's a right outcome. And be open to 2 seconds of connection at any time. It's worth it. God bless you.